human beings come in all shapes and sizes, and you can be very clever and astute. And with that mind, you can perceive a lot of wisdom, and you can be good at expressing it, packaging it. Maybe that's all I'm doing. I don't know. I'm joking. So, so that can happen a lot, and then people who are searching obviously think, oh, this guy's the real deal, and all's good. If they got something good to share and you get something from it, that's all good. But then why the stories afterwards? Why all this stuff that comes out? So the absolutists explain it away with a kind of get out of jail free card, which is that awakening has nothing to do with behavior. There's no link whatsoever. And they use lines like, whatever's happening is just what's happening. You take that on as the final truth. To me, that bypasses so much, and mainly it bypasses the fact of something called the shift. So again, what do we mean by the shift? Well, the shift is a shift away from the dream of personality into what is beyond. Now, what is beyond is unpin downable. That's why it's called life beyond personality. I don't have to name, I don't have to describe what is beyond, because that's for everyone, us all, to find out. And it's the mystery, and the more you try and pin down the mystery, the less you say about it, really. So but what you can say is there is something beyond personality, and I'd say you can say that because the personality is something that exists in the relative, and we can perceive and understand and analyze things in the relative. So that's the way I see this being set up, and that's why I'm so glad I chose that name, because it does the job of saying what we're talking about without trying to make claims to understand the great mystery or anything. It understands this side of the equation, this side of that portal. And understanding this side of it is your way to it and your access to it. So we can understand the personality. And what I was saying was, what is the shift? And the shift is unhooking from identification with personality, which means unhooking from those patterns, strategies, beliefs, and behavior that comes out of personality. So for me, when people say behavior is not linked with awakening, they're not talking about the shift. They don't know. They obviously don't know there is something called the shift. They've stopped with a certain idea of what awakening is, which is to believe that nothing matters. And, and again, all of these things are linked with certain truths about this, but they're not given the full picture. And they're not given the relative side of it often. The shift is about unhooking from that identification. I mean, I'm sure you can even understand what I mean when you think of your strategies and you can think how they have led you to act. For example, if you have a pleasing strategy, then unhooking from that means your behavior totally changes if you can get free of that pattern. Because your approach to other human beings, to relationships, will be fundamentally different, energetically different, because you're coming from such a different place. And it's it's freedom. The pattern is non-freedom because you are under the dominance of a certain belief that you have to please people to be okayed. So outside of that belief, I can't think of a better word. There's a freedom. There's a freedom in that. So yeah, behavior changes, and in all sorts of ways, depending on what your personality was like. But one side of it is this abuse thing, which brings up the subject of how human beings can or do treat other human beings without respect. And it seems to me that this comes about because the needs of the personality take over the running of the show and lead it. Okay, we're not even going to the reason for it, but if you need to dominate other people, then that's something coming from your personality. To go beyond that pattern, you would have to go beyond your personality. But it is a personality pattern to need to dominate others. That's my contention here. In the natural state, you don't need to dominate anyone. You come from a great respect for life, and that includes nature, of course. It includes yourself. There's this great kindness and respect for how you've been made and what you are, and you cannot have that without also applying that to others. I mean, that would be insane. If you see it and respect yourself, of course, another person is just another self. It's another manifestation of, I was going to say God, but why not? If you want to use the term God, it's another version of God. So that respect is very much part of it. And it's, I would say, only personality that would override your essential grounding in that respect. What I came to was, in the spiritual world, because the shift doesn't seem to be known, not in the way I'm talking about it here, people on the path, the people who are seeking, judge teachers. Primarily, their first thing is like the way they speak, the show they're putting on, the wisdom they're saying, their story, all those sort of things. Almost like the power they're showing, because there's a certain power in expressing this and the confidence that can come from it. Now, that can be a personality thing, that confidence. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. So all of that is very beguiling and very attractive to people who are seeking. And it seems to confirm, oh, yeah, this guy or this woman, they've got it, they're the real deal. So this is the metric by which teachers are often judged. So what I'm proposing is there's another kind of metric that could be applied, which would help you decide or be clear on the energetic source of the teacher, really. Are they coming from the shift or not? And that would be love. Are their actions coming from love? It's as simple as that. And it's Jesus, isn't it? When you hear his story, love is talked about a lot. And often, especially with the absolutists, love is an anathema. They don't even bring it up. It's just human stuff, I mean, how insane is that? We are human, so therefore it's important. But still, so if you start applying that to teachers, you may see someone who's saying a lot of good stuff really well and you're fired up by them. But if you hear stories of abuse, you can know, okay, I will take those teachings and get what I need from them if they're relevant to me. But I will know what I'm dealing with. I know this is someone who perhaps knows something in that area, but their energetic source is not this. It's not the shift. It's very strange to even have to be talking about this, because you would, naively, you would think, oh, those two go together. They know a lot. They've had awakening experiences, so they've had the shift. And it's unfortunate that other people do use the shift out there, I've noticed. And obviously, well, I suppose it's like all these terms, they're used in different ways. And it kind of waters down their meaning. But I'm just clarifying, for me, what is a very important distinction. If someone is still displaying abuse of any sort, it's a clear tell. And once you find it, you can know for sure, oh, they know a lot. They're a good teacher in some ways, but they're not talking about the shift. So use them how you want to use them, get what you need to get from them. But just, know with your seeing what you're dealing with. In the end, it's about how much love are you able to perceive? How much are you able to give? How much you're able to receive? And you can't have one without the other. It's also about you receiving it. And that sounds simplified and simplistic, but when it boils down to it, you could boil the whole thing down to how much love can you perceive? Because if you really perceive that love of life. You know what I'm talking about. If you really perceive that, you're perceiving the absolute. There's that informs everything. So sometimes a simple maxim like that kind of cuts to the chase and cuts out a lot of the bullshit.